Hello, hello. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Kim. I am one of the financial wellness coaches here at New Hampshire Federal Credit Union Centers for Finance and Education. So, today we're going to be talking about how to vacation on a budget. This is something that is difficult even when you budget. Um, so we're gonna jump into that today and talk about a couple of different ways that people will actually accomplish vacationing on a budget. So we'll dive into that. Now, this presentation is a recorded presentation. If you have any questions, um, concerns, or anything like that regarding um, this presentation, and if you want to reach out and get financial coaching, I will give our information at the end. Um, that way, but what I do recommend is having some type of note-taking items available for you. So if you take notes on your computer, make sure to have something up. If you like pen and paper, that's perfectly fine too. So go grab that, make sure you have that just so you can take down some notes, okay? And then I'll give you all our information at the end, and then we can go from there if you have any questions. All right, let's go ahead, let's jump in. So this is how to vacation on a budget, which most people don't think is quite fun. All right. So first thing is, where do we start in this whole process of vacationing? Now, I put this lovely picture up here. We all know where this place, but it's one of those that I have a ton of friends that go here on a yearly basis. One, I had a previous coworker that used to go down, and I never knew how he afforded because we were making the same, and I know his wife was making less than us. So I'm like, I didn't know how they could afford it. Okay. So when it comes to actually um doing vacation and uh using your finances or a vacation, there's kind of two trains of thought. So one is you plan where you want to go to first, okay? So you know exactly where you're going, and then you can plan the budget from there. Or, like I do, is we save a certain amount of money every month in a vacation fund, and then when we're ready to go on vacation, we see how much we have in our vacation fund, and we go from there. And that's how we make that decision. Do we want to deplete it fully because we have this cash saved up for it? Or you know what? Let's save up for something nice. We'll do something small. Okay. Now, either way, you're planning, right? Either you plan where you want to go to first and then you save. For our honeymoon, that's what we did when my husband and I got married. I knew we were going to Ireland. He tried to talk me out of it or talk me into something else, and nope. But we knew how much that trip was going to cost. We knew we were going over there. I did all the research as far as um, the flights. We stayed at the bed and breakfasts and renting the car and doing these activities. I researched all that, knew how much it was going to cost roughly, and so we made sure we saved up so we'd have enough, if not more, for that vacation. Okay. Now that we really don't, that was my one place that I wanted to go to. The next thing I think is I want to do an Alaskan cruise. That's going to be beautiful. But so that's going to take some time to know. So we put a little bit in there right now, um, just because we have other things going on that we're not like, okay, we're not going gung ho. So you can do it either way. Either way is fine. You're planning either way. The one thing I don't, that gets me scared, is when people plan a vacation and they throw it all on their card because they have that available balance, but yet they never planned on how they were going to pay for that. Okay. That's what scares me. Okay. That I don't recommend. That's how people get stuck in holes, because you never want to expect for money that you don't know is actually coming. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I'm paying off my credit card when my tax return comes in. Well, you're never guaranteed you're getting a tax return. So it's or like when my bonus comes in, not guaranteed you're getting a bonus. That stuff scares me, and I want that to scare you too. Okay. So we're going to be talking a lot about planning today. Right. So when we're talking about a vacation, how much is it going to cost? Really? Okay. I want you to put in the effort. I want you to really look at that, and don't say, well, we might be able to get a cheaper flights. We might be able to do this. No. Look at what they're costing, and what I usually say is I usually plan for the highest amount. Okay? Because if you're saving, for instance, with our honeymoon, we saved 2 years in advance. We had no idea what cost of flights were going to be to Ireland in 2 years. We were hoping that they wouldn't go much higher, but we didn't know that. So I don't want you to plan on the low end. I'd rather you plan on the high end and have extra money, or be able to save, or keep some in vacation fund for the next vacation. Okay? I want you to plan on the higher side. Now, depending on where you're going, right? Do we need to fly? Can we drive? A lot of people will do staycations. They'll pick places near where they live. They'll take a week off and do like little vacations here, and we'll go up to, let's say, the aquarium down in Boston. We'll go out to the beach. A lot of places. Go up to the White Mountains. A lot of things around this area. Okay. Do we want to rent a vehicle? If you're going, for instance, some people, when they go to Ireland, they do a full tour that's all inclusive. They're on a bus. They don't need to have a car. We decided that I wanted to do a lot of driving, and so we did rent a car. We planned for it because that's what we wanted to do. Okay. 2, what type of activities do you want to do? Okay. Our Ireland trip and our St. John trip were 2 totally different vacations. Our honeymoon in Ireland, I was so excited to go to Ireland that I wanted to fit everything into our trip. It was 11 days and 10 nights. Okay. We did so much driving. We did so much walking. We did so much sightseeing. We went to all the little excursions, the castles, kissed the Blarney Stone, went to the Guinness plant. Like, we did everything. Okay. So we made sure that we had funds for all those type of exhibits and all those type of things that we wanted to do. Now, our St. John trip, when we went to St. John, it was completely the opposite. We wanted to go there and do absolutely nothing, right? That was the mentality we had when we went on that trip. So all we had to do when really saving up for that trip is make sure we had enough for the planes and the villa, which was most of it, and then have money for food. That was it, because we weren't doing anything. We were just going to the beach and we were snorkeling, and that's it. Different beaches every day. That's all we did. It was fabulous. So again, depending on where you're going is definitely going to depend on the cost. Because even though with Ireland, the flight was a little bit cheaper, the bed and breakfasts were cheaper, we did so many excursions that it ended up being around the same to go to St. John as it did to Ireland, because it's more expensive to stay in St. John, but we didn't do all the excursion things, right? So that's what you want to look at. Okay. Activities you want to do. We ended up, because I love snorkeling. Absolutely love snorkeling. I mean, I love scuba diving too, but I just had to go get trained for it. Um, but I love snorkeling. That we ended up buying all our snorkeling gear before we went down because the amount that it cost to rent it was almost the amount to buy it. So we just bought it and took it with us. Okay. That might be something that you want to look into too, especially if it's something that you really enjoy doing. It's something that you can use for future trips, right? And you just save that over time. Okay. So that's one way that we can budget on the vacation. Okay. What type of dining options are there available? So, as I mentioned, St. John, we just made sure that we had, enough for food. So it was a little bit more laid back, um, which was fantastic. But it's all different. When we went to Disney, we went down to Disney for a friend's wedding. They have some very expensive places that we wanted to try. So when we went there, we made sure to set money aside. We actually had to bump it up because there were some sit down restaurants that we really wanted to go to. Okay. When we were at St. John, a lot of our eating, we were doing picnics. We were grabbing subs and just had waters on the beach. It was fantastic. Um, when we went to Ireland, it was just we were eating at pubs. That's all we did was eat at pubs because I love Irish pubs. Oh my God, most beautiful things in the world. They are all different and they love their bars to the point where they're just beautifully crafted. Absolutely beautifully crafted. You go in and they're all different and they're filled with people and then they have the music. It's just amazing. And it was just so cool to experience all the different pubs, and the food at the pubs were phenomenal. It was fantastic. So that's all that's all we did in Ireland. So knowing where you're gonna eat, right? Or having an idea about what you're gonna eat. So what we did for Ireland, I looked at a few restaurants and kind of got an idea of how much of an average that we were gonna spend. Did the same thing when we went to Disney. Did the same thing when we went to St. John. Just getting that idea. It didn't mean that we had to go to the places where I researched. It just meant that I took different levels and said, okay, well, we'll probably eat nice a couple of nights down in Disney. So, okay, expect to spend this much. And something like that. That way you have that knowledge and you have that before you go down, before you go to a restaurant, like, yeah, we're going to eat here. And then all of a sudden the bill comes and you're like, oh my God, heart palpitations, right? So we don't want heart palpitations. So looking into that, how much is it going to cost? Okay. So once we know those aspects of the vacation, we can then now move to the budgeting. Okay. So I said scenario one is you know where you want to go and you want to plan. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. The second one is just saving up funds and then choosing your vacation spot on how much is saved in the vacation fund. No matter which way you do it, or like us, depending on which one, we flip flop and do it either way. Usually, if it's a bigger trip, we definitely want to plan it first and then start saving just so we have an idea when we're going to be able to go. You have to budget. Now, I know most people hate the word budget, but it's a spending plan, right? We can't save for vacation if we don't know what we can save for vacation, right? Now, that seems like a very silly statement because it's like, well, yeah, but you would be surprised how many people try to put money into savings when they don't know how much money they really have to put in savings, and then they take that money out because a bill comes in that they forgot about. And so That one little action is devastating to your psyche. Okay? If that happens more than once, if that happens more than twice, every time it happens, it just multiplies the fact that all of a sudden now you're having this underlying thought that you don't really realize you're having, but it's like, I can never save. I can't save. I can't save. I have to keep pulling money out of my savings. Why can't I save? It's not that you can't save. We didn't do the first part. Okay. We didn't do the budget. We don't know what we're spending money on. And therefore, we don't know, how much of our income is going to stuff. Therefore, we don't know how much we can save. Because just because, you're going back and forth, it doesn't mean you can't save. We just didn't do that first part. Okay. So what we do is we actually use a zero-based budget. This is a budget where you allocate every dollar to a purpose. Now, the reason why we want to allocate every dollar to a purpose is because if every dollar has a purpose, when your paycheck comes in, you know it's accounted for. Whether it's bills, whether it's expenses, or savings, your money is accounted for. Why do we do this? If every dollar is accounted for, then are you going to run down and grab a pizza just, because it's Thursday night and you didn't budget for it? Are you going to do that when you know every dollar has a purpose and every dollar is going someplace? No. You're much less likely to spend like that because you put in the work and you made every single dollar have a purpose. And so you're trying to work against your psychological issues when it comes to spending. Now, if we did not do the zero-based budget, and let's say we just had a bunch of money out there saying we should have like $500 in savings, what do? We start saying, oh, well, you know what? We'll put 400 in vacation and, because I have an extra 500, oh, you know what? I'm going to go grab pizza. Well, that was a charge you weren't planning on making. And then it ends up being like $30 and it's like, okay, $30. Okay. That's cheaper. Um, but then let's say you're like, oh, I'm going to get a specialty coffee. It's going to be like $7. I should have an extra $500. I'm gonna have an extra $500. $7 is nothing. We'll go there. See what I did? I did minus the 30 from the 500. So when I went to do that second purchase, I didn't say, "Oh, I now have 470 minus the 7." Your brain doesn't do that. You fixate on the final number, which is 500. And you will tell yourself that every time you go to make a purchase. Before you know it, your $500 is gone. Okay? That's what happens. With the budgeting and make the zero-based budget, that will help against go will help you fight against that, just having that in your head, because it's going to be on a piece of paper, it's going to be on Excel, it's going to be somewhere. Okay. And so with that, you can still, for instance, if you know you like to get pizza once a week, that might be something where you tell yourself, you know what, it's going to take a little bit longer to save for a vacation. But that's something that, our family really likes to get a pizza once a week. Or what you can say is, you know what, we do that too often. We do it once a week and, we really need to cut it down. It's really not good. So maybe we cut it down to twice a month or maybe once a month. But you put money aside, you allocate your income to go toward having that pizza how many times you want in a month. Okay? That's what the budget does. It lets you have a healthy relationship with money. Okay? So when we're building this budget, the first thing we need to do is set your goals. Okay? What is the goal? What's your financial goals? Is it to pay down debt? Is it to go on vacation? Is it to make sure your bills are paid on time? if I asked 100 people, there'll probably be 100 different answers of why they would budget. Okay. And so you want to set your goals, because having set goals is really going to keep you focused on continually doing the budget. Okay. Second, we want to identify income, and then we want to identify expenses. This is usually the most cringy part of the experience, I guess you could say, just because a lot of people at this point, they don't know what they have for expenses. So this part kind of scares people. Identify your income, because they're actually afraid that they're going to realize that they spend more than they make, and then they won't be able to save for anything. Usually that's not the case. When we do this, and what we call it also, this part of things, is a cash flow statement. We want to see how your cash is flowing through your household. Okay? So this is where we're starting to get organized. You'll need to grab everything. You need to know how much you're making, so pay stubs, statements, and then you need to gather bills, like rent, mortgage, car payments. Food is a hard one. Food and gas, because those typically you're not doing the same amount of groceries, but also what makes it kind of hard is people are going there multiple times buying smaller things, but a lot of people buy groceries at Target and Walmart, which has other things associated with it. So sometimes when you go there, you're not sure when you look back if that was all groceries or if you bought some shirts or some other stuff. So sometimes what people will have to do is they'll have to kind of add up what they spent previously, see what it is, and then the next month when we're actually following the budget, they'll actually pay more attention on what they're actually spending on actual groceries and toiletries and things like that. Okay? So that's what we do when we're doing the cash flow, and we're identifying income, we're identifying expenses, and so we know where our money has been going. Okay. Now, from that cash flow statement, um, we then will that helps us kind of assess what we've been spending. It will also shoot up some red flags if there's areas that we're spending too much, and we let you determine whether that's too much or not. Usually when we do that exercise and we get to usually restaurants, that's usually when I see a sickening face on most of my coaching clients. Like, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. So usually I can tell when someone's like, I don't want to spend this much on this category. I've never had anyone be excited about overspending on a category. But again, your overspending is different from my overspending, right? We have different goals, um, different budgets. So something that might be outrageous for me might not be for you, vice versa. Okay. So the one thing that I have that I tell people is when we're starting to create a budget, we really need to have an understanding of our seasonal expenses as well. Okay. So these are things like holidays, for instance, Christmas. I have so many clients that I help that are like, I had one I started helping in September. She goes, what am I going to do about Christmas? I haven't saved a dime. I'm like, well, that's up to you. That's up to your budget. Can we afford something? Is it something that we might have to do? We might have to think outside the box, do an experience, um, have like a craft night and just go out and buy some crafts, and then have a Christmas craft day where you spend the day creating something. Like sometimes that has to happen, especially that first Christmas that you start budgeting. If you haven't saved anything, it's very hard to go from a tight budget to all of a sudden buying $1,200 worth of stuff. Okay. Birthdays, school expenses, annual payments, so subscriptions, insurances, things like that. It took us a full year after we started budgeting. We had an idea of when things came out, but anything new, we weren't sure yet. So it took us a year before we were able to have everything mapped out about our yearly expenses. So what we did was we always kept we knew that there wasn't a bill that was over a set amount of money. It was just like over like 150. So we always made sure that we had an extra $200 in checking, and if nothing came out, good. We just kept that $200 there just in case. And then as annual expenses came out that I may have missed, I have a little Excel spreadsheet, annual expenses, write it right in there. That way I know. Separating needs from wants. This is especially important if you're tighter on funds, but you really want to save. It's kind of that opportunity cost, right? Okay, do I buy little wants here and there, and then because it costs more, take longer to go on vacation? Okay, you really got, or is it like vacation is something that I really want to do, that I have to do? Um, and so it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna really cut down. We're gonna not do wants throughout the saving process for the vacation, because the vacation is what I want. Okay, depending on which one, it's not right this way, not right this way. It's what works for you. Okay, designing your budget. So designing your budget, everyone's is going to be slightly different because your financial situation and your journey is different. Okay, what may work for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me. The concepts are the same, though. That's what I want people to know. The concepts are the same, but the individual, like actual itemized budget, is going to be different, right? So my opportunity cost for vacation this year is low. I'm doing things with the kids, um, as far as little things. So a big vacation is not in my horizon. The little stuff is. Okay. So you design your budget around the goals, and then you go from there, and doing a little bit here and there. It's actually amazing how you start seeing yourself um, reach these goals. And when you have a plan in place, everything runs that much smoother. Okay. Um, so definitely, I've been budgeting now for 12 years, and I wouldn't have it any, like, we're debt free other than our mortgage, and it's one of those things where we still budget. We still budget. We still have that. If I didn't have a budget, I would have so much anxiety. I do not know how people do it without a budget. Um, and they're like, I just have it in my head. I'm like, you cannot have all that in your head. You're missing something. It's just too much. It's just too much. Okay. So this part, looking ahead, monitoring, reviewing, and reevaluating your budget, because we do a monthly budget, like right now, our monthly budget is practically the same every month. There's not too much things that change it, other than like birthdays or things like that. But depending on where you are in your finances, it may be different here to there. I try to make it as even keel. Like, we have propane for heat, so winter gets really expensive. So what we did was we totaled how much we spent in heat the first year in the house, and then what we did was we divided it by 12. So I actually put away money for heating every month. That way, when the winter comes, we already have a bunch of heating money in a heating savings account. So it's not a punch in the gut when it turns December. So that's one way to help. if it's just easier to be able to lessen your load, especially if you have seasonal expenses like that. So that's how you'd go ahead and do the budget. Okay. So with that, and the way that it all ties together is if you're able to budget and you're able to have your bills, your expenses, and everything taken care of, then you're able to say, okay, to be able, for instance, let's say we're going on the Alaskan cruise or like the Mediterranean cruise, like the 14-day cruise. It's going to cost a bunch of money, but you want to go within the next 2 years. Okay, so this is the planning part. I want to go in the next 2 years, and if it's going to cost like $12,000 to go, now that's being I'm sure it's exaggerating. Might not, depending on the all inclusiveness that you might choose. Um, but that tells us, okay, I want to go in the next 2 years. Okay, it's gonna cost me $12,000. Perfect. For me to save, I'm going to need to save $500 a month. Okay. How do I know I can afford $500 a month if I don't have a budget and I don't know my expenses? You don't, right? You don't. That's how the budget helps. The budget helps you because it will tell you, okay, this is how much you have for income. These are all your bills. These are all your expenses. This is what you're saving for. Okay, you have $600 left over. Perfect. 500 of that is going to my Mediterranean cruise, baby. Okay, that's how you know. And then you have an extra $100 to allocate someplace else, but you give every single dollar a purpose. Okay, that's how a budget helps you vacation. Okay, that's how. Okay. So it's the end of the class, so I'm going to go ahead. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to us at centers@nhfcu.org. Oh, no, sorry. Oh my God. Center FE. So CENTERFE at nhfcu.org. You can also give me a direct call at actually our joint line, just in case I'm away. My team member Megan can assist as well. I'll give you that one. So that our centers line is 603-224-7731 extension 330. Okay? So if you have any questions, you can email or call. Again, my name is Kim, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.